Rian stood at the edge of the landing platform, staring at the strange world before him. The air shimmered with a pale blue light that came from the twin suns above. Great silver towers rose in the distance, their tips shining like crystal. The ground was smooth stone carved with wide patterns that looked almost alive. Around him stood guards in tall armor, their helmets shaped like beasts from forgotten dreams. This was not Earth. This was the world of the Lumeris, a proud alien race who had ruled the stars long before humans left their own system. Rian was one of the few chosen to come here, sent by Earth's new council as part of a peace mission. He knew many doubted humans would be taken seriously. After all, Earth had only just begun to travel the stars while the Lumeris had built empires across galaxies. Still, Rian carried himself with steady steps. He knew one thing well: humans were good at making friends even where no one expected. Trumpets made of glowing crystal sang across the platform. A wide gate opened, and a line of figures appeared. At their front walked a tall being in golden armor, his crown floating above his head without strings. His steps echoed like drums. This was the king of the Lumeris. Behind him came others, nobles, advisors, and guards. Yet among them, one figure caught Rian's eyes. She was dressed in silver armor from head to toe. The surface of her plates reflected the light of the suns, making her appear like a walking flame. Her helmet covered her face completely, hiding all features. She moved with grace, slower than the warriors but not weak. There was something about the way she held herself calm, steady, almost curious. Rian soon learned this was Princess Alira, the hidden jewel of her people. The king stopped before Rian. His voice was deep and strong. "Human envoy, welcome to Lumeris Prime. May this day begin a path of trust between our worlds." Rian bowed his head slightly, the way his instructors had told him. "On behalf of Earth, I thank you for this welcome. Our people seek friendship, not conquest. We bring ideas and hands ready to work beside yours." Some nobles exchanged doubtful looks. A few whispered to each other. To them, humans were small, new, and fragile compared to the mighty Lumeris. Yet Rian kept his tone calm. He spoke not with pride, but with simple honesty. The ceremony went on, filled with speeches and formal words. Rian followed, listening closely, answering when needed. He noticed the princess often turned her helmet toward him. Though he could not see her eyes, he felt her gaze linger longer than the others. She seemed more interested in him than in the grand speeches. When the gathering ended, the guests were guided into the palace. Rian walked among alien walls made of glowing stone. Strange symbols ran across them like rivers of light. The air was cool and smelled faintly of spice. Guards lined the halls, their movements sharp and practiced. Rian felt the weight of many eyes watching him, some with suspicion, some with curiosity. That evening, a feast was held in a great hall. Floating lamps hovered above the tables, sending soft light across the room. Food from many worlds was served: fruits that glowed like lanterns, meat that steamed without fire, and drinks that shone like liquid stars. Rian tasted a few things carefully, smiling politely even when the flavor shocked his tongue. During the feast, he noticed again the armored princess sitting quietly at the far side of the table. While others laughed and shared loud tales, she spoke little. Her helmet remained in place, hiding her completely. Yet now and then, she looked his way. Once, he dared to nod to her. For a moment, he thought he saw her helmet tilt, almost like a silent greeting in return. After the meal, Rian stepped out onto a balcony. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in rivers of gold and purple. He breathed in slowly, letting the strange beauty settle in his heart. It was then that he heard soft steps behind him. He turned, and there she was, the princess, still in her shining armor. She did not speak at first. Instead, she stood beside him, gazing out at the alien horizon. The silence was not heavy, but curious. Rian felt he should say something. "It is a beautiful world," he said gently. "Your people must be proud of it." Her voice came at last, soft yet firm, echoing slightly from within the helmet. "And what of your world, human? Do you love it as much as you say?" Rian smiled. "Yes. It may not shine like this, but it is ours. Blue skies, green fields, storms, and songs. It is home, and that makes it beautiful." She turned her helmet toward him. "Strange. You speak of storms as beauty. Most fear storms." Rian chuckled lightly. "Storms remind us we are small. But they also remind us we can endure. After every storm, the sky clears. That is beauty too." For the first time, the princess gave a sound that might have been a laugh, quiet, short, but real. She shook her head slightly. "Humans are different." Rian did not know what to say to that, so he only smiled again. Before she left, she asked one more question. "Do you think all humans speak as you do?" "Not all," Rian admitted. "But many. We do not always agree, we do not always succeed, but we always try. That is what makes us human." The princess stood in silence for a moment. Then she gave a small nod and walked away, her armor shining faintly in the dim light. Rian watched her go, feeling a strange sense of connection. He had not expected such attention from a princess of another world. Yet he felt her questions were not casual. She wanted to know more, not only about humans, but about something hidden within herself. As night covered the palace in silver light, Rian knew one thing. His mission had only just begun, but already, something unexpected was unfolding. The princess in armor was curious about him, and perhaps, about something far greater. The next day began with golden light falling across the palace. The twin suns rose slowly, painting the walls in glowing lines. Rian was guided by a servant through long halls filled with art carved from crystal. Strange figures shaped like stars and rivers were etched into every corner. He walked calmly, remembering that every step here was a test. The Lumeris were watching him, judging his kind through his actions. He entered a chamber where nobles gathered. They spoke of trade routes, weapons, and the balance of power in nearby systems. Their words were sharp, and their tones carried pride. Rian listened quietly, only speaking when asked. When one noble scoffed at Earth's small fleet, Rian answered politely, saying humans valued cooperation more than numbers. Some frowned at this, but others seemed thoughtful. After the meeting ended, Rian found himself walking in the palace gardens. Strange flowers floated above the soil, glowing with soft light. Small winged creatures drifted between them, humming like music. As he admired the sight, he heard the sound of footsteps again. He turned and saw her Princess Alira, the armored figure who had spoken to him on the balcony the night before. She approached slowly, her silver armor catching the light of the suns. Her voice echoed gently from behind the helmet. "You walk alone, human. Do you not seek company from the nobles?" Rian shook his head with a small smile. "Their company is fine, but sometimes quiet places say more than crowded halls." The princess tilted her head slightly, as if considering his answer. She walked beside him among the glowing flowers. For a while, she asked nothing, simply letting the silence guide them. Then, at last, she spoke again. "Tell me, Rian. Why do humans laugh?" Rian blinked at the question. "We laugh because it feels good. Sometimes when we are happy, sometimes when something surprises us in a funny way. Laughter makes heavy things lighter." "Strange," Alira said softly. "Among my people, laughter is rare. It is seen as childish. Only the very young do it freely." Rian thought for a moment. Maybe that is why the young feel free. Laughter does not mean weakness. It means the heart is alive. For a brief second, he thought he heard a quiet sound from her helmet, a short breath that almost resembled a laugh, though quickly hidden. She turned away, looking at the flowers. "Another question, human," she said. "Why do your people care for the weak? I have read of your kind. You protect your injured, your sick, even those who can no longer fight. Why?" Ryan's face grew calm. "Because strength is not only in battle. One day, even the strongest may fall. When that happens, others must carry them. That is how families survive. That is how worlds survive." Alira did not answer at once. She touched one of the floating flowers gently, her armored hand making it drift upward like a star. Her voice was quieter when she spoke again. "In my kingdom, those who cannot serve often hide themselves. Few stand for them. Your words are unusual." Ryan looked at her with steady eyes. "Maybe unusual to some, but natural to us. Caring does not make us weak. It makes us human." Again, silence stretched between them. The hum of the winged creatures filled the air. Alira finally turned toward him. Though her helmet still hid her face, Ryan felt her gaze heavy on him. "You answer without fear," she said. "Others in my court choose their words carefully, trying to impress or flatter. But you speak simply, as if truth alone is enough." Ryan gave a small laugh. "Truth is easier to remember than lies. If you speak what you believe, you never stumble." For the first time, Alira leaned slightly closer. Her voice carried a softer tone. "You surprise me, human. Perhaps that is why I find myself seeking your company." The words lingered between them. Ryan did not know what to say, so he only bowed his head in respect. "Then I am honored, princess." Over the next days, their paths crossed often. Sometimes in the gardens, sometimes in the grand library filled with glowing scrolls, sometimes in the training yards where soldiers moved like living statues. Each time, Alira asked questions that no one else would. She wanted to know why humans dream, why they sing songs, why they write stories even when no one listens. Ryan answered with patience, sometimes with a smile, sometimes with thought. He told her that dreams gave humans hope, that songs carried feelings words could not, and that stories were bridges between souls. Alira listened closely, her silence filled with curiosity. One evening, they found themselves again on the balcony where they had first spoken. The sky was deep violet, stars blooming across it like endless fields. Alira stood beside him, her armor shining in the starlight. She asked another question, her voice quieter than before. "Do humans ever feel small beneath the stars?" Ryan nodded. "Yes. Very small. But we do not see that as despair. We see it as a reminder. The universe is wide, yet we are here. Even a small flame can shine in endless dark." Alira turned her helmet toward him slowly. Her voice carried something he had not heard before, a faint tremble. "Your words, they make me wonder things I have never dared to wonder." Ryan looked at her, but he did not press. He only said gently, "Then wonder. Questions are not chains. They are doors." She grew silent again, standing with him under the stars. For a long moment, nothing was said, yet the air between them felt alive. When at last she left, her steps echoed softly in the hall. Ryan watched her go, feeling again that strange bond. The princess who hid behind armor was beginning to open, if only a little. And he knew this curiosity of hers was leading somewhere deeper, somewhere the court would never expect. That night, as he rested in his chamber, Ryan thought of her questions. He understood now that she was not simply curious about humans. She was searching for something within herself, something her armor could not hide forever. The peace mission was important, yes. But Ryan felt another mission growing in silence, the mission of answering the questions of a princess who carried secrets too heavy for one heart alone. The days on Lumeris Prime passed with a rhythm Rian had not expected. Each morning began with meetings among nobles and advisors. Each evening seemed to end with the princess finding a way to meet him. She no longer spoke only in passing. Instead, she spent long hours asking him about the ways of humans. Her questions grew stranger with time. She asked why humans painted the sky with colors even when the sky was already full of stars. She asked why humans cared about stories of heroes who failed as much as heroes who won. She asked why humans would risk their lives for friends they had known only a short while. Rian answered the best he could, not with grand speeches but with simple truths. He told her that art was not only about showing the world but also about showing the heart. He told her that stories of failure gave strength because they taught people to rise again. He told her that friendship was not measured by time but by trust. Each time he spoke, Alira grew quiet. Sometimes she tilted her helmet as if studying his face. Sometimes he thought he heard the softest sound of a laugh, like an echo trapped inside her armor. She was no longer only curious. She was thoughtful, as if weighing every word against something hidden deep within herself. One evening, as the sun sank low and painted the sky in red and silver, Alira called him to the balcony again. The palace behind them glowed faintly, and the air was cool with night wind. She stood beside him, her armor reflecting the last light of the day. She was silent for a long time. Rian did not break the silence. He had learned that silence between them was not empty. It was full of questions waiting to be born. At last, her voice came, softer than before. "Human, there is something I wish to ask. But it is not a question of your people. It is a question of me." Rian turned slightly toward her. "Ask, princess. I will listen." Her helmet faced the horizon. "Do you wonder what is under this armor?" The question hung in the air. Rian's heart gave a small start. He had thought of it before, yes. Who would not, when every noble whispered of the mystery of their princess? But hearing the words from her own voice was different. This was not idle curiosity. This was something heavy, almost painful. Rian breathed slowly. "If you want truth, then yes. I have wondered." She turned her helmet toward him. The starlight reflected on her silver faceplate. "And what do you imagine?" Rian looked out at the stars, choosing his words with care. "I imagine someone who carries more than she should. Someone who hides not because she wishes to, but because she feels she must. That is what I imagine." The princess was silent. The wind carried only the soft hum of distant city lights. Finally, she spoke again. Her voice was trembling, though still firm. "You are unlike the others. Every noble who has stood before me has begged to know, has dreamed of seeing what I hide. Some believe it would make them powerful. Some believe it would make them proud. But you speak of weight and choice. Why?" Rian gave a small smile. "Because what you look like does not matter to me. What matters is the person who stands here, asking these questions. Armor or no armor, you are still you." The silence after those words was longer than before. He felt her gaze heavy on him, though the helmet gave no clue of her thoughts. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, almost fragile. "You shock me, human. I expected curiosity. I expected hunger for secrets. Yet you give me something else." Rian nodded gently. "Respect. That is what I give. And friendship, if you will allow it." Her helmet lowered slightly, almost like a bow. "Perhaps I will." From that night onward, their bond grew stronger. Alira no longer asked only about humans. She began to speak, in careful fragments, of herself. She told him she had worn the armor since she was young. She told him it was not only tradition, but a command of the royal court. She told him that even her people had never seen her true form since the day she was hidden away. She did not tell him why. Not yet. But Rian could hear in her voice the weight of shame and fear. He wanted to ask, but he held back. He knew that trust must walk on its own pace. One night, they sat in the gardens again. The floating flowers drifted in the air, glowing with gentle light. Alira sat across from him, her armor shining pale blue. "Rian," she said, "do humans ever hide themselves, the way I do?" Rian thought carefully. Yes. Many do. Not with armor, but with masks of another kind. Some hide their pain behind laughter. Some hide their fears behind anger. Some hide their hearts behind silence. We all wear armor, princess. Just not the kind you wear. Her head lifted slightly. And what happens when that armor breaks? Rian's eyes softened. Sometimes it hurts. But sometimes, it sets them free. Alira grew quiet again. He could feel her mind working behind the mask. For a moment, he wondered if she would remove it then and there. But she did not. She rose, her silver form standing tall. "One day," she said, "I may test your words. Until then, keep them close. They may matter more than you know." Rian stood as well, bowing slightly. "Whenever you wish, princess." She left the garden with steps that echoed in the stillness. Rian watched her go, his heart steady but curious. He felt the truth was near, a truth hidden under silver armor and guarded by fear. As he returned to his chamber, Rian thought again of her question. "Do you wonder what is under this armor?" Yes, he wondered. But more than that, he wondered what pain or hope had placed the armor on her in the first place. And he knew, with certainty, that the answer would not only surprise him but also change the path of her people forever. Night had fallen over Lumeris Prime, and the palace was quiet. The twin suns were gone, leaving only the soft glow of crystal towers shining across the city. Rian stood once again on the balcony, breathing in the cool air. He had grown used to the rhythm of this world, yet each evening still felt new. The stars above seemed closer here, as if they were listening. Behind him, he heard the soft sound of metal against stone. He turned and saw the princess approaching, her silver armor gleaming faintly in the moonlight. She stopped a few steps away, her form still and composed, but her voice carried a weight heavier than before. "Rian," she said, "there is something I must show you. Something no one else has seen for many years." Rian bowed his head slightly. "If you trust me with it, I will honor that trust." She hesitated, her helmet facing the stars. Then she spoke again, softer now. "I was not given this armor for battle, nor for ceremony. It was given to me because I was different. My people believe difference is danger. So they hid me away, behind these plates, behind this mask." Her words struck deep in Rian's heart. He stepped closer, careful not to startle her. "Different does not mean wrong. It means unique. What is hidden cannot always be a curse. Sometimes it is a gift." Alira's hands touched the side of her helmet. For a long time, she was silent, as if deciding whether to take the final step. Then, with a slow motion, she lifted the helmet from her head. Rian's breath caught. Her face was not like the other Lumeris he had seen. Her skin glowed softly, like silver light woven into flesh. Her hair shimmered with threads of pale blue, flowing like water. And her eyes, bright, radiant, filled with living light, looked straight into his. She turned away slightly, as if ashamed. "This is what they call cursed. I was born with light inside me. My people fear it. They say it is unnatural, that it brings weakness. So they forced me to wear the armor, to hide myself even from those I was meant to rule." Rian did not move for a moment. Then he stepped forward and spoke with quiet strength. "It is not a curse. It is beautiful. It is strength they do not understand. And what they do not understand, they fear." Alira turned back to him slowly, searching his face for signs of fear or disgust. Instead, she found calm eyes and a gentle smile. The tension in her shoulders eased slightly, though her voice still carried doubt. You speak as if you are certain. But what if you are wrong? What if they reject me forever? Then let them, Rian said firmly. But never reject yourself. The world does not change when we hide. It changes when we stand. For a moment, the princess simply looked at him. Then she closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. Her glowing skin pulsed faintly, the light within her rising and falling like the beat of a heart. When she opened her eyes again, there was something new there, a fragile hope. Rian, she whispered, you speak as if you have carried such a weight yourself. Rian looked out at the stars. Every human carries something. On Earth, there are those who are different too. Some are cast aside, some are mocked, some are told they do not belong. But difference has given us strength. It is what has shaped our history. We rise not because we are the same, but because we are many voices joined together. Alira listened closely, her glowing eyes fixed on him. Then she asked, do you believe my difference can be a strength? Yes, Rian said without hesitation. I believe it already is. The fact that you stand here, seeking truth, shows courage greater than any army. Silence followed, but it was no longer heavy. It was the silence of trust, of two hearts beginning to understand one another. Alira placed her helmet back under her arm but did not wear it again. She looked at Rian, her light shimmering in the night air. I have never shown my face to anyone beyond my family. To reveal it now to a human is a choice that would shock the entire court. Rian gave a small smile. Then let it shock them. Sometimes, change begins with one choice. The princess lowered her head slightly, almost like a bow. You speak with such certainty, human. I find myself wishing to believe you. Believe not my words, Rian said gently. Believe yourself. That is where strength begins. For the first time, Alira allowed herself a true smile. It was faint, shy, but it lit her face more than the glow of her skin. Rian felt the sight etch itself deep into his memory. That night, they remained on the balcony, speaking softly of dreams and fears. Alira told him of the times she had wanted to cast aside the armor but had been stopped by the voices of her council. She told him how, as a child, she had thought her light was a blessing, but the whispers of others had turned it into a chain. Rian listened, never judging, only offering quiet words of comfort when her voice faltered. By the time the first rays of dawn touched the horizon, Alira stood taller. She still wore the silver armor, but now she carried her helmet at her side, her face open to the new day. Thank you, Rian, she said softly. You have given me something I thought I had lost long ago. Rian tilted his head. And what is that? Hope, she answered simply. They parted with a quiet understanding. Rian knew this was only the beginning. The truth of Alira's hidden light was now shared, and with it came a bond that no noble could have planned. He also knew the path ahead would not be easy. Her people feared what she was, and fear did not vanish in a single night. But he believed her courage would grow, and when it did, it might change not only her life but the destiny of her kingdom. As Rian lay down to rest later that morning, he whispered to himself, her light is no curse. It is the beginning of something greater. The palace of Lumeris Prime woke with unrest. Messengers ran through the halls, their voices sharp with urgency. The crystal walls echoed with hurried footsteps, and the calm of the kingdom felt broken. Rian was led to the council chamber, where nobles and generals gathered in tense silence. The king sat at the head, his golden crown floating above him, his face carved with worry. Rian entered quietly, but his eyes quickly caught Alira's. She stood beside the throne, still wearing her armor but without the helmet. Her glowing face drew stares from the council, though no one dared speak of it. Only Rian met her gaze with steady calm. The king raised his voice. A fleet approaches from the outer stars. It belongs to the Varric Dominion. They send no message, no demand, only warships. Their banners show conquest, not peace. The room filled with whispers. The Varric Dominion was known across the stars as a relentless empire. Where they moved, worlds burned. Their strength was not only in weapons but in fear. Many kingdoms had already fallen under their shadow. General Kale, a tall Lumeris with a scar across his cheek, stepped forward. We must gather our fleets. Strike before they reach orbit. Show them the strength of Lumeris Prime. Another noble shook his head. No, to fight them directly is folly. We must seal the cities and prepare for a long defense. Let the walls of our world protect us. Arguments rose like storm winds. Some demanded battle, others demanded caution. The chamber shook with voices, but no path was agreed upon. During the noise, Rian stood silent, listening. He watched the maps glowing above the council table, showing red dots moving across the outer stars. He saw patterns the others ignored. He saw weakness not in numbers, but in the way the Varric spread their ships. At last, the king's voice cut through the noise. And what says our human guest? Speak, Rian of Earth. You come from a young world, yet you watch with sharp eyes. What do you see? The room fell quiet. Many nobles frowned at the idea of letting a human speak in such a council, but the king had asked, and none could refuse. Rian stepped forward slowly. He looked at the glowing map and raised his hand toward the enemy fleet. They expect you to fight as you always fight. Strong against strong. They march in lines because they know you will meet them with equal lines. But strength is not only in power. It is in surprise. It is in turning what they believe into what they fear. General Kale scoffed. What does a human know of star battles? Your people barely control a handful of ships. Rian did not answer the insult. He kept his eyes on the king. A forest is not cut down by striking the trunk first. It is cut when the roots are torn away. The Varric ships are many, yes, but they move with heavy supply lines. Strike those, and their power breaks. They will fight, but without food, without fuel, without command, their fleet will turn against itself. The nobles whispered again, some mocking, some uncertain. But Alira stepped forward, her voice firm. I support his words. I have studied the Varric. Their strength is speed and terror, but their supply is fragile. If we strike where they do not expect, we can drive them back without destroying our own fleets. Her words drew shock. Many stared not only because she defended Rian, but because her glowing face was uncovered before the council. Some turned away, unwilling to look at what they still called cursed. Yet her voice carried power, and none could deny it. The king studied both Rian and his daughter. At last, he nodded. Then let it be so. We will prepare a trap. Rian of Earth, you will share your plan with my generals. If it fails, the blood of our people will be on your hands. If it succeeds, you will have proven that humans hold wisdom even among the stars. Rian bowed respectfully. I accept this responsibility. When the council ended, Alira found him in the corridor. Her eyes shone with quiet fire. You spoke with courage. Many would have bent under their scorn, but you did not. Rian smiled faintly. It is not courage to speak truth. It is simply duty. She looked at him closely, her voice softer now. Still, you stood beside me when none would. That is not only duty. That is friendship. Rian held her gaze. And I will keep standing, princess. Not only for peace, but for you. For a moment, silence passed between them, heavy with meaning. Then Alira turned away, her light glowing faintly in the dim hall. Then let us see if your plan can turn the tide. In the following days, Preparations began. Rian worked beside the generals, marking star maps, showing them where the supply ships of the Varrock must pass. He explained how to move small fleets like shadows, striking not at the strongest ships but at the weakest points. Many generals doubted him, but the king ordered his plan to be followed. Alira herself took command of part of the defense fleet. Her presence shocked the nobles, but she refused to be hidden. She wore her armor but left her helmet aside, letting her light shine openly. Soldiers whispered when they saw her, some in fear, some in awe. Yet she held her head high, her voice clear with command. Rian watched her once before the departure. She stood upon the deck of her ship, light flowing from her skin like a beacon. He thought to himself that the Varrock would not only meet ships of steel, but also the courage of a princess who had once been forced to hide. As the fleets moved into position, tension filled every heart. The Varrock ships drew closer, red lines crawling across the maps. The sky above Lumeris Prime began to shimmer with the first glint of war. In that moment, Rian understood. This was not only a battle for land or for power. It was a battle for the soul of a kingdom. If Alira's people saw her light not as a curse but as a guide, then her world would change forever. And if humans played a part in that change, then perhaps the stars would no longer see Earth as small. The night before the battle, the air on Lumeris Prime felt heavy with anticipation. Stars stretched across the sky like scattered diamonds, and the twin moons rose slowly, casting pale silver light across the fleet docks. Ships of all sizes were ready, their hulls polished and weapons armed. The hum of engines filled the air, a reminder that soon the silence of space would shatter. Rian stood aboard the command ship, studying the maps and charts that glowed with soft light. His plan was simple but required perfect timing and absolute trust among the fleets. Even the smallest mistake could turn victory into disaster. He knew the Varrock were cunning and ruthless. They would strike without mercy if given the chance. Alira approached quietly. Her armor reflected the light of the moons, but her face remained uncovered. The glow of her skin made her seem brighter than any star above. She moved to stand beside Rian, her presence calm but commanding. "Are you ready, Rian?" she asked, her voice steady though her eyes held a flicker of worry. "I am ready," he said. "And so are you. Your people will follow your command because they trust you. That trust is stronger than any fleet." Alira nodded. "And if it is not enough?" Rian placed a hand gently on her shoulder. "It will be enough. Remember what I said. Strength is not only in power. It is in courage, in strategy, and in hope. You have all three." The first ships of the Varrock fleet appeared as tiny points in the distance. Soon, they grew larger, red lights flashing along their hulls. The alien formation was tight, like a wall of fire moving steadily toward Lumeris Prime. Many of the Lumeris commanders whispered nervously, doubting the humans' plan. Rian remained calm, guiding the fleets into positions that would strike the enemy from angles they did not expect. Alira's ship led one wing, her light glowing brightly. She gave orders with clear precision, her voice reaching every soldier. "Hold your lines. Watch the supply ships. Strike only when I command. Trust each other." As the battle began, the first exchange of fire lit the sky. Lasers and energy blasts tore through space, painting trails of red and blue. Explosions erupted as ships collided and shields failed. Many would have panicked, but the Lumeris followed Rian's strategy. Small, fast fleets struck at supply lines, cutting off food, fuel, and communications for the Varrock. The enemy seemed confused, their lines faltering. Rian and Alira watched as the plan unfolded. Each move was precise, each strike hitting its target. The Varrock did not expect such clever tactics. They had relied on power alone, but humans thought differently. Every maneuver Rian suggested, every order Alira gave, created small openings that grew larger with time. At one point, a group of Varrock ships tried to flank the Lumeris. Alira's wing moved quickly, intercepting them with precision. She maneuvered her ship with skill and confidence, her glowing form guiding her pilots like a beacon. Rian's heart swelled with admiration. She had not only accepted his plan but had become its living part, leading with courage and strength. In the middle of the battle, an enormous Varric flagship appeared, its weapons ready to destroy the central Lumeris command. Panic threatened to spread among the soldiers, but Alira acted without hesitation. She gave a series of commands, directing smaller ships to surround the flagship while Rian adjusted firing sequences to target weak points. The flagship shuddered under the coordinated attack. Sparks flew along its hull, and soon it lost its formation. Rian's strategy had worked. The Varric were forced to retreat, their fleet breaking apart in confusion. The Lumeris, once doubting humans, now witnessed a combination of bravery and intelligence that changed their view forever. Alira's voice echoed across the comms. "Hold your positions. Do not give them a chance to recover. We finish this together." The final strikes were precise. Supply lines were destroyed, command ships disabled, and the remaining Varric fled toward the distant stars. Victory belonged to the Lumeris, aided by a human mind that had seen beyond numbers and weapons. When the battle ended, silence returned to the galaxy. Ships drifted in space, smoke and sparks filling the void. Rian and Alira floated above the command deck, watching the horizon. "You were magnificent," Rian said quietly. "Your leadership saved thousands of lives." Alira shook her head, her light pulsing softly. "I only followed your words. Without your plan, we would have been crushed. You saw what I could not see. You saw what my people could not trust themselves to see." Rian smiled. "We did it together. Humans and Lumeris. That is what makes us strong. Courage and wisdom, side by side." Alira looked at him, her glowing eyes shining with a mixture of relief and wonder. "Perhaps your people are not as weak as some believed. Perhaps humans can teach more than we imagined." Rian nodded. "And perhaps your people can learn that light, even when different, is not something to hide." The victory was celebrated quietly among the ships. The soldiers of Lumeris cheered for their princess, seeing her glow not as a curse, but as a symbol of courage. Many whispered of the human who had guided them. Rian remained calm, knowing that true strength was in the actions, not in recognition. That night, after repairs and preparations, Alira sought Rian again. They stood together on the balcony of her ship, looking down at the recovering planet below. "You changed the hearts of my people," she said softly. "They saw not just strategy, but hope. And hope comes from those who dare to be different." Rian looked at her, his own heart steady. "You gave them hope by trusting yourself. I only helped them see it." Alira smiled, her glow gentle in the moonlight. "Perhaps it is time I do not hide anymore. Perhaps it is time to lead openly, without fear of what others think." Rian placed a hand lightly on the railing, beside hers. "Then they will see your true strength, and they will follow. Not because they are forced, but because they believe." For the first time, the princess felt unburdened. The armor she had worn was no longer a shield from fear, but a symbol of strength she had always carried within. And the human beside her had shown that courage and wisdom could come from anyone, no matter how small or young their world might seem. The stars stretched endlessly above them, silent witnesses to a new beginning. The battle had been won, but the war for trust, understanding, and change was only just beginning. The victory over the Varric fleet had brought a rare calm to Lumeris Prime. The sky glowed faintly from the repaired towers, and the streets were filled with citizens quietly celebrating. Soldiers walked the streets, their armor dented but shining, smiling at the promise of safety. Yet even in celebration, attention lingered. Many still whispered about the princess, her glowing form, and the human who had helped save their world. Rian stood beside Alira on the steps of the palace. The twin suns had not yet risen, but the pale light of dawn began to color the horizon. He looked at her and saw not the armored princess of old, but a leader who had earned the trust of her people. Alira's glowing skin shimmered in the morning light, her face uncovered for all to see. She held her helmet at her side, a symbol of the armor she had once needed but no longer required. Her eyes searched the city below, watching as her citizens stirred, noticing her for the first time without fear. "It is time," she said softly, "to show them who I really am." Rian nodded, standing tall beside her. "Then let them see your strength, not the armor." Alira stepped forward, raising her hand to signal the palace gates. Soldiers stopped in surprise. Many did not expect her to act so boldly. She had always hidden behind silver plates, and now she was revealing herself fully. A murmur ran through the crowd, but no one dared stop her. The palace gates opened slowly, and the citizens of Lumeris Prime saw their princess standing tall, glowing faintly in the dawn. Her light was soft but powerful, gentle but unyielding. They gasped, unsure whether to be afraid or amazed. Some whispered that she was cursed. Others felt drawn to her courage. Rian watched carefully, standing just behind her, ready to offer support if needed. He could see the change already happening. The people's fear was slowly giving way to wonder. Their princess had faced the unknown and returned stronger. Alira spoke to the crowd, her voice clear and firm. "Citizens of Lumeris, I am no longer hiding behind armor. I have lived with this light for my entire life. Many have called it a curse, but it is my strength. It is a part of who I am. And today, we have shown that courage, wisdom, and trust can protect us better than fear alone." The crowd grew silent, listening closely. Her words carried weight beyond mere authority. There was honesty in them, a truth they could not ignore. Rian stepped beside her, adding his voice. "The princess speaks not only as your leader, but as someone who has faced the same challenges any of you face when you are different. We humans have learned that strength comes from embracing what makes us unique. Today, we have proven that together, humans and Lumeris can achieve what none could alone." The citizens began to murmur, then to cheer. Slowly, the sound grew louder. Soldiers and nobles alike looked on in surprise, realizing that the fear they had carried for generations was melting away. Alira's courage had given them permission to believe in what they had once rejected. The council members approached cautiously, some bowing, some still uncertain. General Kale stepped forward and spoke, his voice firm but respectful. "Princess, human Rian, you have led us to victory. Your courage and wisdom have changed how we see the world, and ourselves. We stand with you now." Alira gave a small nod, her glowing face brightening with satisfaction. She turned back to the citizens. "It is time to embrace change. It is time to recognize that light, even when different, is a gift and not a curse. Fear must no longer rule our hearts." The crowd erupted in cheers. Children ran through the streets, pointing to the glowing princess in amazement. Adults whispered to each other, sharing stories of the battles they had witnessed. Soldiers lifted their weapons not in fear but in salute. The energy of hope spread like wildfire across the city. Rian smiled, watching her. He could see the transformation in her people. They were no longer just subjects of a kingdom, they were believers in courage and unity. And he knew that Alira's bravery, combined with the human perspective he had shared, had brought them to this point. Alira's eyes met his, and she gave a small, grateful smile. "You helped me more than you know, Rian. Not just in battle, but in showing me that trust can change hearts." Rian shook his head gently. "You found your courage within yourself. I only reminded you it was there." The sun began to rise fully over the horizon, bathing the city in gold and silver light. Alira stood tall, her glowing form reflecting the new day. Citizens cheered, soldiers saluted, and the palace hummed with the quiet energy of hope and freedom. The princess who had once hidden behind armor was now a living symbol of courage, trust, and the strength of being true to oneself. Later, in private, Alira and Rian walked through the palace gardens. The floating flowers drifted gently in the morning air, their soft light blending with the glow of her skin. "Do you think they will truly accept me now?" she asked quietly. Rian nodded. "They already have. It will take time for fear to fully disappear, but you have shown them the way. You led not only with power but with honesty and heart." Alira looked at him, her eyes shining. "And humans, like you, will always be part of this change." "Yes," Rian said with a soft smile. "Because we believe in courage, in trust, and in the strength of the heart. That is something every world can learn." She placed her hand lightly on the flowers, letting their gentle glow mix with her own. For the first time, she felt completely free. The armor was no longer a barrier, the fear of rejection no longer held her back. She was herself, and that self was enough. The palace, the city, and the people of Lumeris Prime began a new day. It was a day of hope, courage, and trust. And at the heart of it, Princess Alira and Rian stood together, a symbol that bravery and understanding could overcome fear, that humans and aliens could work together, and that light, no matter how different, was always meant to shine. The story of the armored princess and the human envoy would be told for generations, a tale of courage, wisdom, and unity. And in the quiet moments, when the stars looked down from above, Alira would remember that her light had never been a curse. It had always been her strength, and with trust and courage, it had guided her people into a new era.